Picture this again, but slower this time. The first time you met them, there was noise, movement, social pressure humming in the background. Your brain wasn't just listening, it was multitasking at full capacity. You were thinking about how you looked, what to say next, whether you seemed confident, whether they liked you. And in the middle of all that, they said their name. Just a quick sound. A label. Something like, "Hi, I'm Ahmed." But your brain didn't fully register it. Not because you didn't hear it, but because you weren't really available to process it. This is where something called the next-in-line effect kicks in. It's a cognitive bias where you're so focused on what you're about to say next that you don't fully absorb what the other person is saying right now. So while they were introducing themselves, your brain was busy rehearsing. Don't be awkward. Smile. Say something normal. Don't mess this up. The name didn't stand a chance. You think it's memory. It's actually attention. Let's zoom in even further, into what your brain is actually doing in that moment. First comes input. You hear the name. Then processing. Your brain tries to interpret it. Then filtering. It decides whether it's worth keeping. And finally, storage. It either encodes the information, or quietly drops it. And here's the problem. Names are incredibly weak inputs. They're abstract. They don't describe anything. They don't carry meaning on their own. Your brain prefers information it can attach to something. This is called associative encoding. It's how your brain decides what sticks. If something connects to an image, a story, a role, it's more likely to be stored. Doctor. The guy who loves football. The one who spilled coffee. Those stick. But names? Names are just labels. Feels like you forgot. But in reality, your brain never encoded it in the first place. Now let's go one layer deeper. This isn't just about names. It's about cognitive load. Your working memory, the part of your brain that handles information in real time, has limited capacity. It can only juggle a handful of things at once. And in social situations, that capacity gets overwhelmed. You're tracking eye contact, tone of voice, body language. You're monitoring your own words, your posture, your facial expressions. You're predicting reactions, adjusting behavior, managing impressions. And somewhere in that mental traffic jam, a name quietly passes through, unnoticed. Your brain isn't doing a bad job. It's optimizing. Your brain isn't trying to remember everything. It's trying to help you navigate the situation. This is where it gets a little uncomfortable. Because from the other person's perspective, something very different is happening. When you hesitate, when you avoid saying their name, when you stall, it doesn't feel like a memory glitch. It feels personal. Oh, I guess I didn't matter enough to remember. That's the emotional translation on their side. Even if it's not true. Even if your brain was just overloaded. This is the gap between feeling and reality. It feels like you forgot them. But the truth is, you never fully registered them in the first place. And to them, it feels like they didn't matter. Now here's the reframe that changes everything. You don't have a bad memory for names. You have an attention system that turns inward under pressure. When you meet someone new, your focus shifts from the outside world to yourself. How am I doing? What should I say? Do I seem confident? Am I being judged? This is known as self-referential processing bias. Your brain prioritizing information related to you. And the more socially aware, or socially anxious, you are, the stronger this effect becomes. So ironically, the more you care about the interaction, the less attention you give to the other person's details. You're not careless. You're cognitively self-focused. Here's the unexpected part. Forgetting names is often a side effect of trying too hard to do well socially. Your brain is working overtime, but it's working on the wrong task. Instead of encoding information, it's managing impressions. Instead of listening, it's performing. And performance steals attention. You didn't lose the name. You never stopped to receive it. And this pattern doesn't stop at names. It shows up in conversations where you miss details. In meetings where instructions don't stick. In moments where you walk into a room and forget why you went there. This isn't random forgetfulness. This is a consistent cognitive system. Your brain filters information based on what it thinks matters most in that moment. And under pressure, what matters most is usually you. Your brain isn't failing. It's prioritizing. Now imagine going back to that same situation, but with one small shift. You're not trying to impress. You're not rehearsing your next line. You're not monitoring yourself every second. You're just present. They say their name. And instead of letting it pass, you pause for a split second. You repeat it. You connect it to something. A detail, a face, a tone. Because memory doesn't come from effort. It comes from connection. There's a concept called the baker-baker paradox. If someone tells you a man is a baker, you're more likely to remember it than if his name is Baker. Why? Because baker as a profession connects to meaning, images of bread, ovens, routines. But baker as a name? It's just a label. Your brain doesn't store labels. It stores meaning. And when there's no meaning, there's nothing to hold on to. So let's shift the identity here. You're not someone who's bad with names. You're someone whose brain is optimized for internal monitoring instead of external encoding. That's a completely different problem. And more importantly, it's a solvable one. Because attention can be redirected. The next time someone tells you their name, treat that moment differently. Not casually. Not as a formality. But as the most important data point in the interaction. Pause. Let it land. Repeat it if you can. Attach it to something real. Because that moment, the introduction, is the only moment your brain gets clean access to that information. Miss it there, and you're trying to recover something that was never stored. And here's something deeper. Names aren't just about memory. They're about recognition. When you remember someone's name, what you're really saying is, I saw you. I registered you. And when you forget, it unintentionally says the opposite. Not because you didn't care, but because your brain was somewhere else. So the next time you're stuck in that awkward moment, standing there, searching your mind, feeling that quiet panic, pause. Not to try harder, but to understand what actually happened. You didn't forget them. You weren't fully there when it mattered. And maybe that's the real shift. Because this isn't just about names. It's about attention. It's about presence. It's about where your mind goes in the moments that count. The things you remember best in life aren't the things you tried hardest to memorize. They're the things you were fully present for. So ask yourself this. Where else in your life are you forgetting? Not because your memory is weak, but because your attention was somewhere else. Moment. Conversations. People. If this felt uncomfortably accurate, you're not alone. Let me know if you've had that exact moment, where someone clearly remembers you, and your mind goes completely blank. Because once you see the pattern, you start to notice it everywhere. And in the end, this was never about names. It was about the silent places your attention disappears to, right when something important is trying to stay.